making glass come alive. Redshift render come to pass. Watch me create with class.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kirk of Effectatron, and today I'm going to show you how to create some just pretty glasses. Basically, we're not going to do anything like super accurate, physically accurate. This is exactly the IOR of this glass and all that stuff. We're just kind of playing around with making things that look pretty because I think they're really fun, and you can make some really obscure things that are kind of different looking and stuff, which is pretty cool. So we'll just explain just a couple of the settings in the transmission and just some extra steps you can mix in there to kind of add a little extra cool look to some of your stuff, which is kind of fun to try to create that. So we're just really creating this, and this is applicable to, you know, making juices and stuff. Now, obviously, this isn't a step-by-step on how to create physically accurate orange juice and stuff like that, but hopefully you can have fun just making some pretty cool stuff and understanding how to make some fun glasses. So let's just get into it. All right, so I downloaded this dragon from Sketchfab, but we can put it on whatever we want. But the main thing you want to notice about glass is something I say a lot in the Mind and Motion workshop, which is materials are always only half the battle. If you don't have like lighting in your scene, your glass and stuff, doesn't matter how it's set up, it's going to look totally different. So like this is purely a dome light, and you can see this isn't quite the same look. We can go back to like this pretty pink one, which shows a blue here because it has a blue on the outside, but you can see this looks like kind of neat. It's not like really that cool, but then you start adding some light casting into it and it gets completely different looking, and it looks like nice and bright and pink and see-through, and so it's like it's the same material. So you know, lighting is a big part of glass, and that's really the first thing I want to make sure a lot of people understand and realize. And that's not just the case with glass; it's especially true with glass, but it's the case with all materials. Like you can have your material perfectly physically accurate, but if you don't light it right, it's not going to look very good or whatever. And then sometimes, you know, people get caught up on making things look exactly scientifically correct when really you can just make it look close enough, and that's good enough. But yeah. It's up to you. It's all personal choice, and there's no right or wrong way. But there's definitely ways to control things, and that's what we're going to really cover today. So let's just go ahead and start with just a new material. So let me explain the scene. This is if you open up C4D 2025 and you choose the product template. That's what this is, except I have just buffed up the key light values here, and I've buffed up the fill light value as well, just because I didn't feel like it was doing a whole lot. This is it on its own. You see, we can kind of buff it up a little more, just to kind of fill it a little bit more. And then the key light's the big one. That's going to be coming in through like the side of our glass, which is very important when you're doing something that's lighting glass, obviously like a backlight. Anytime you're like faking subsurface scattering or anything like that, you're going to want backlight because that's really where it's going to shine. And again, we're not using subsurface. We're literally only using transmission, which is what's cool about this. Okay, so, well, transmission and some other things, but not subsurface. All right, we'll turn our dome light back on just to kind of fill out the scene. There we go. Okay, cool. So default template, the product template, and then Sketchfab Dragon, link to that below. And we can do whatever. We'll probably do some other stuff as well. And yeah, so cool. Let's get started. So create a material, standard material. Go ahead and drag that onto our dragon. Here we go. And if you're wondering what my render settings are here, I'm using optics 64 for the progressive, just so it's like extra fast. And the denoising, I'm using optics right now just because it's fine. You can use Orden if you're on not on an RTX card. You can use Orden if you are too. It's pretty good. It's just a little extra blurry at the beginning. But I have cranked up my combined depth. We can turn up our GI as well, but I've cranked up reflection, refraction, and transparency depth quite a lot just because I knew we were going to work with glass, so I might as well make it as, you know, crank that up and put a little extra oomph into that. And then that's really it, pretty much. And then render settings for final render, 512, because I have a 3090, which the 5090s have been announced that they are going to be 32 gig VRAM, which is amazing. I can't wait for those to come out. I almost bought a 40 series on Black Friday, but I held back. Okay, so let's make glass. double click this, and you can see we've got our just standard material here, and there are like 3 things that affect the way your glass is really going to look. 1 is the base, 2 is reflection, and 3 are these values inside the transmission. Now these are, obviously 2, so 4 things. But anyway, let's go ahead and we can just take our base and turn it off for now. Let's say no base. Totally fine. It's going to come out like this. That's fine. Now, IOR is really important for glass, but not insanely important when it comes to... Now, IOR is pretty important for glass. It's going to really affect it, and you don't really need to understand like the values of a lot of objects and things. You just kind of need to understand when you get closer to 1. Basically, let's go ahead and take our transmission and slide it all the way up, and this is going to become glass, right? Boop. And when we slide this down closer to 1, we're going to see through it with less distortion. If we crank this up higher, like 2, we're going to get a lot more distortion, and almost the fact where we can't even see through it anymore. And that's partly because of the roughness. So we could take the roughness off. But now, we're still struggling to see through it. It's just going to distort it a lot. And like I like to explain it as like an IOR of like, 1.2 is like seeing glasses, and then like for, like just fake ones. And then like an IOR of like 2.5 is like Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys, like the really thick glasses. I don't know where that accent came from, but that's not how Bubbles talks. But yeah, really thick glasses, it's really going to distort it. So that's huge, right, when it comes to glass. So, and the other thing that I think a lot of people don't realize, we're going to keep it low right now, like 1.1, is the ability to mix the weight of a lot of things that feel like they shouldn't be mixed. So like if you think of something as being glass, like you think it needs to have a value of 1 for transmission. Well, maybe, but you also can like dial that back and mix in some metal, and you're like, wait, metal and glass don't go together. Not really, but the physical attributes of how they render does create some pretty cool effects. So sometimes it's fun to just make things that don't really exist just because they look cool. So let's play with that really quick. So right now, we've got our transmission. It's white, which is going to make it clear. Now, if we were to take this and make it like blue, it's going to turn it blue, which is pretty cool. But here's the thing, right? So let's say this is clear. And we go over here to our base color, and we make it like red. And we start increasing the weight of that up to 1. It's not really going to change anything. Not much. But let's take the metal and crank that up. Crank it up a little more. Now you start to see we actually are affecting it, because it's giving us that weird reddish cool metal vibe of reflections, but it's still see-through, which is interesting, right? So that's cool. But we also could come in here and like cut this in half, and we can also cut our transmission and cut that in half. And now we have this like weird in-between of like red plastic, but it's like see-through kind of plastic. So it's like, it kind of looks solid. Then we can take our IOR, turn that up, and now it becomes like more solid, like less like a real thin, empty thing, and more of a solid object. Or we could take it like really low, like 1.01, and then take our transmission and turn it up more, but also put the red color on that. And now it's like, it's really crystal red. And then we can take the metalness down, take the metalness up, and start to really play around with these values. Say, okay, well, let's take the weight of this way down, but take the transmission up as high as we can go. But maybe we make the metalness orange. And this is really like the process, right? It's just like, oh, what's going to happen when we do this? What's going to happen when we do that? Okay, so now we're like really see-through because we almost have no base metalness attributes at all. And this is really low. Now we could turn this up. It's going to make it look a little more hollow, which is nice. Or we could even come in here and like increase the roughness inside the transmission, which is going to make it like blurry. So now we're kind of more like jello a little bit more, because we're like mixing things together. So it's just kind of a neat way to think about it. Now, so I don't want it always to be like, I just want people to know you don't always have to be like, okay, this is this. I need to set this to this. This needs to be at 1.5678, like, and have everything exactly right, and not use metalness and stuff just to work on glass. Like glass can be fun. But let's play around with a couple of extra things that make it extra fun. And that is when we do combine the metalness value with it, what we can also do, you don't actually even have to combine the metalness value with it. You can combine thin film with glass, which always provides a pretty cool effect. But then also we'll talk about the depth and scatter color, which is also really cool. So let's talk about thin film really quick. Let's take this transmission and make it white. So now we're back to like clear glass, right? We can lower this down so it's even more see-through. Okay. We're back to our original see-through glass. We can up the roughness inside to make it like a little rougher inside, but it's not the same as increasing the IOR. So it's kind of like a etchy glass inside rather than like a thick, solid glass. Anyway, we're kind of going all over the place, but let's go ahead and take our IOR of our thin film and just leave it how it is, but we can crank up the thickness. And you're going to see we kind of start to get these fun kind of colors on there. We can maybe increase this to like 1.8 or so. And then you can start to see we've got this like cool bluish, pinkish purple color. And we can slide around. You're going to kind of rotate through purple, pink, orange, and blue when it comes to the IOR thickness values. And somewhere around 300-ish is pretty good with an IOR of 1.8. I like these like kind of bluish purple colors because they just kind of add a little extra bit without being chromatic aberration. So now we have this cool like thin film on top of it, which is pretty fun. But let's go ahead and like make that pop a little more by maybe making our diffuse kind of this nice blue, turning the weight of that up. Okay. But then also turning up the metalness value. And we start to see just like a little bit of how we can make that look a little more solid, and we can start turning that up more. Yeah, and so now we have this like weird greenish color, and we can take our thin film and start playing around with that and make it more of like that purpley. We'll look for that purple. Yeah, I like that. So now it's looking more metal than glass, but again, we can fix this, just lower the metalness value, but we keep that cool thin film color. But we can come in here to the transmission, and now we'll say, okay, I want this to be like a light pink, like this. Yeah, but then I want the inside of it to be kind of like more blue. So how do I want like the deeper it gets for the light to kind of become blue. So that would mean like in the scatter color, I want this to be a kind of this cool blue like this. And that's not going to do anything until we increase the depth of this. So now, with that depth being very low, we have that nice, cool blue inside that's affected by the thickness, but we still have an outside layer of the thin film, which provides this really nice, pretty pink color. And again, without the metalness value and without the thin film, we're left with just kind of this cool, pretty blue glass, which is nice. This is very pretty, and I like that, but having that thin film just helps add like a little extra layer of fun into this, I feel like. And not just that, but you can see just a tiny amount changes the colors of that quite a bit. We're looking for that purpley pink. There it is. And that on its own helps create a pretty nice, cool effect on this. But then add that metalness value with the blue, and we get kind of this more solid, tangible, smoky object inside of glass. It feels more like whimsical this way. And the thin film might be a little much. We could probably tone that down a bit, but we'll see. I'll go back up. That's fine. Do like 1.8. Yeah. Cool. I like that. Now, on top of that, we can take this depth, and if we want it to be, more see-through, we can increase the depth. Now it's going to be more see-through, and it's going to be only kind of bluish in those really, really thick parts, right? So just to isolate this, we'll turn the thin film off. And we have just that. So if we take our depth and make it really shallow, that means it's only going to have to travel inside the glass a tiny bit before, boom, it pops into that scatter color, right? So our transmission is still like that pink color. The only thing that's happening is we're hitting that scatter color with the light, and that's making it hit. So with the longer depth, we're saying let light travel in before it, boom, it pops into the scatter color. So it's going to travel in and be glass, and then boom, as it gets thicker, it's going to hit this object. So to, you know, showcase this, let's just grab our dragons here. And just for example, I've got a small dragon and a little dragon, and we'll put him there, him there. So we've got our little dragon here. So here is an example. This is the same dragon, just scaled down. And because it's scaled down, it's a lot less blue because we're driving the blue color with depth. So if our object is smaller and has less depth, it's not ever going to reach that threshold that triggers the depth to scatter that blue color. So it's just going to be a lot more glass. Now, if we slide over here and look at our big old fat boy, we've got that. It's going to be very blue because it's thick. And basically, we have a lot more depth. So it's not going in, you know, ratio-wise. Once it's only going in that 10 or whatever we have set, and then boom, triggering that scatter depth. And so it's triggering it sooner in our shape. So that, you know, alone is how a lot of people like get tripped up with like setting up their glass, because they don't factor in size and what depth means, which makes sense because the values and stuff here are just like numbers. Like, what does that even mean? Depth 4.4. Okay, is 4 a lot? And I don't have like a scientific, you know, answer to what kind of units those are. All I know is you just start playing around with it enough and you start figuring out, okay, 4 is going to be, like, if my object's this size, 4 is going to put it in pretty far. The good thing is that Redshift's fast enough that if I come in here and make it really low, I'm like, boom, that's going to make that really solid, which is good. If I make this really high, like, I can go like, yeah, 10. And we're going to make it pretty clear, and I can go higher, and that's going to make it even more clear. And we're really only going to get those blue parts and the really thick parts, which is a really cool effect. And then on top of that, we can increase the roughness, which is going to make it look kind of cloudy, which might look cool with the thin film on top of that and stuff like that. And we can start layering these things together to create some really fun, whimsical looks. Now, my favorite thing with glass is actually, we're going to do like a little bit of roughness, like 0.1, but it's actually the dispersion or chromatic aberration. So chromatic aberration is the thing that basically is like, if you think about the Spider-Verse, everything's like out of focus and it splits red, green, and yellow. Instead of like just being a bokeh of blur, it splits the colors. That's what's happening. Like if you take a prism, use dispersion, it's going to take your white light and split it into the rainbow. That's what's happening here. So we crank that up, you think, okay, crank it up to 100s. I really want it to split. That's not really what that means. It's not like 100%. It's more like some, again, arbitrary value that means something technically that's not, you know, clear. So basically, what I like to stay around is somewhere around 20, but 20 is pretty good, and we can turn the thin film off so we don't like confuse the two. Oh, thin film is off. Perfect. Okay, good. We can turn the metalness off. And it's a little harder to see in the IPR, and it does make things take longer. But this, combined with caustics, always provides really cool like rainbows and stuff. But this is one of the things that when you are using IOR, it is very important. So chromatic aberration isn't so much about the depth of your object and stuff as it is the IOR value. Just like a prism. If you had like a rectangular prism that was glass, and it was just like thin walled and you shine the light through it, it's not going to split into a rainbow. But when it's like really a thick IOR and it's like really distorted, that's going to split a rainbow. So we can come in here and increase our IOR, and you're going to see the colors are going to split and be a lot more of like blue, green, red. And you can see, even though it's still just crystal clear white here, we're getting a lot more of that RGB split in here. And then again, we could take our depth down and make that blue show up. But what's cool is it's going to really keep that chromatic aberration on like the thin crystally parts, which is pretty cool. So, and basically if you want it to be exaggerated, you want to, like if you want it to be kind of accurate to kind of like water and stuff, you want to be around like 40-ish, I think. Like 64 is like as high as you want to go. But if you want it to be like artistic and fun, somewhere around 20 and below is always like really like boom, you're gonna see it. So like if we go real low, we're gonna see like a lot of like the green and red shift going on there. And so like something like 6 or so is pretty good around there, which is gonna be pretty nice. And then I'm liking the way this is looking. And so what I want to do is I want to turn that thin film back up. So I want to get some of that in there. And I want to take my metalness, get that back up, because I want to bring in some of that blue color back into it. But I might change this to like pink, and try to bring some of that in there. Slide that up, slide this up. And you can see it's getting weird, right? Like we've lost our glass and now we're just too metallic. Well, back off the metallic a bit. Also, maybe take our transmission color and make it a little more pink. There we go. So now we're getting this cool chromatic pinkish purple with a blue interior. And again, I just think we have too much IOR, so we'll bring that down. So I want it to be kind of clearly see-through. Now we're getting some fun colors here. There we go. But maybe too much metal still. Bring it back down. And then for the depth, we can increase that a bit. So it's a little more crystal. And it might just be too much chromatic aberration. Yeah, so I want the blue to be there. That's not bad. That's pretty. That's pretty. You can tell it like starts rendering. It takes a little longer to render. Chromatic aberration is really render heavy. But then so we can kind of like smooth this out and add some roughness on our transmission, not our transmission, on our reflection. So maybe we make it, you know, look a little rougher. So it's like a little more mattish, kind of, a little more solid looking. I can turn that up quite a bit, which is going to give us just this nice kind of pretty soft color, but I still want it to look like glass, like sharp glass. So what you can do is then it'll come down here, layer in some coat on top of that with a high IOR and then a low roughness value, and you'll get like a shine back on top of it. So now, you know, combining metalness, thin wall, transmission, depth, and coat, we can get some pretty cool looking things, right? So, and you can color your coat, you can mask things, and that's kind of like, I think this is like both what makes Redshift hard for people is because, you know, I wanted to make this pretty cool rainbow color thing, and I just adjusted about 50 different values. And to some like people starting off, that's tricky, and that's not easy to learn. But when you do start figuring out and break things down into individually, that's Redshift's biggest strength, is rather than giving you a bunch of presets to drop in and like get things made quickly that, you know, everybody's kind of going to look alike, it allows you to break everything apart and have absolute control about every step of the way. So you can really create something pretty and unique. And that's what I like about Redshift. So maybe tone this down a little bit more. I want a little more blue inside. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So that's like really pretty. I like that a lot. But I am going to take the reflection down. Yeah. And we can do a little bucket render here. Boop. Just to see what it will look like versus the IPR, because it will look quite different and it will take a while because of the chromatic aberration, and glass is literally the slowest thing you can render. I feel like Redshift handles subsurface division like faster, not division, subsurface scattering, almost faster than reflections now, but I don't know. I also have my settings cranked up for my refraction and stuff. But yeah. But we'll take a look at this, what this looks like, and then just a couple other examples on how quickly it is that once you get it kind of set up, you can start really tweaking just a few things and create a lot of really pretty colors. So, I mean, you can see it's taking quite a while to render, and we've got a lot of the heaviest render heavy settings on here. Metalness, really heavy. IOR with reflection and stuff, pretty heavy, not crazy heavy. Transmission, very heavy. Depth, very heavy. Dispersion, chromatic aberration, very heavy. So combining the heaviest render stuff will have a price, but this is a very pretty material that's like just fun to put on anything, and you can play around with this. So let's, take a look at, let me stop this, and we'll take a look at some of the things I've made recently. So this is set up the exact same way. This is a VR headset that is from Substance, the paid version, which has some really cool models. But you can see just like adding that thin film, you can see how that thin film looks really good on like clean techie stuff. So basically, if you look at what this material is, it's this soft, pretty one that I made. And we can break this down very, very easily. It's got no base color because it's clear. We can see that. Reflection all the way up. IOR is low. That's why you can see through it so well to all the little parts. Roughness very low. Transmission is white. These are all white. And all we've got here is a little bit of thin film on here. So that, with the chromatic dispersion, creates this really nice color. Now, if we take this down to like 2.4, it's going to be really rainbowy. And there we're going to really see like that rainbow split in there. So you can see how that looks really nice. And again, we could take our IOR and turn it up to like 1.8. And now it's going to be a little whiter and less of that kind of thin film purpley kind of color. And we get like this nice, pretty prism chromatic aberration from that. And again, it's the same kind of thing. We've got 3 area lights, just front, back, and I think I have one coming from the bottom just to be extra cool, but that's pretty much it. And we can, take a look at this from really any angle, and it's going to look pretty cool because that's just how it is. And obviously we need to adjust our focal length. Boop. Yeah, but we can see through, and a lot of it comes down to the model and stuff like that. So it's all pieces of the puzzle, but this is very, very pretty, very cool. You could do lots of tech things this way, which is really nice. And we also, let's come over here. We'll grab that material we just made and put it in here, and throw it on there. And that's going to give us this really cool kind of like, it's kind of got 90s vibe. Like if you've seen the Xbox Cypher controllers that came out, this like thin colored plastic, but all the parts inside are kind of see-through and clear. So, I mean, we made this cool color and we can adjust it and stuff very easily and things like that. I say easily, obviously you need to kind of understand what you're clicking around with, but you want to try to match like transmission and the base color normally. But there we go. Look, now we've got it nice and pink. We could do kind of this cool blue, like so. I think blue and pinks look really good together, so we're going to stick with that, like so, and that's going to give us more of that blue color. Again, IOR up will make it thicker. Very nice. And more depth will make it thinner, less of that blue, more plasticky, and then we could bring this back down and make it real blue. Like we're like kind of shouldn't be able to see through it, but we can, which is pretty cool as well. So like just this, we're like, but like right here where it's like thick, we're not seeing through it. It's just a really cool, it's just fun. I love making this kind of stuff. And I know this isn't like a normal, like one of my normal tutorials, but hopefully I like doing these kind of just more generally creative process things. So if you like this kind of stuff, let me know. I enjoy it because I don't have to do it about 50 billion times. I record my tutorials over and over again because I think it needs to be perfect. And this way it feels more like off the cuff and free, and it's kind of how I like to build. So we'll look at just a few more. We've got like a smoky one here, and I'll put all these materials on Patreon, and I'm probably going to build another pack, but I'll put a few samples on Patreon for sure. But I'll probably get another pack going. I have a good glass pack on Redshift on Gumroad already, and I might just make like another big pack because I love making glass. And it's like one of those things that you don't like photo scan and make with textures because it's glass. So it's just really pretty. Like this is such a cool, smoky glass texture. That's pretty cool. We can do like a softer, thin one. Pyong. I love that. And with a dark background, choo. And that's key too. Like the background color is very important. If we were to come in here and make this like bright white cyc, we're gonna it's gonna change the look of our glass because obviously we're gonna see through it. So you have to be mindful your environment is very much affecting your glass. But this alone still, that looks really cool, right? But making this dark, like a 1%, makes that pop a bit more. We could probably do like 10%. Nah, just like 1%. Yeah, that makes those colors really pop a lot more against the black, which is nice. Let's go ahead and grab like this subtle blue one, and then we'll grab some of the ones I made earlier that are more of that metallic-y color. We'll go click, 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 and click, and copy. Go here and paste. Here we go. All right, so this is like a nice kind of cool blue one, but we grab that ice pink one we made earlier. Boom. Like that's pretty, and like it just looks so good on round cool things besides like that scanned dragon, which is cool, but just throw it on whatever you want. But tech stuff always looks cool. That's part of it. We'll do the pretty blue one we made, or I made. It's nice. We'll do this one. This is the one we made in the tutorial. Very pretty. We can take that obviously and lower the IOR so it's a lot more see-through. Boom. And then up the depth so it's a little clearer. There we go. And you can see how instantly, pop, we just transformed that. We still have the same kind of elements of the pink and the blue and the colors, but we can maybe increase the chromatic aberration. Get a little bit more of that. And then the thin film, we could play with that as well. Maybe we take it lower. It's going to make it more like green, maybe make it higher, might make it more orange or pink. It really depends. The thin film is one of those things that like you just got to slide it around and see what happens. We also could take it off and get rid of it and just be left with our glass, which looks pretty sick as well. We can turn this up even more so it's even more see-through. And we're left with our chromatic aberration, which again, we can... I like that though. That's pretty. Turn that down. I like that. Let's turn Oiden on to see how we like it. And then we'll take this to 24 so it's crazy fast. Oiden's just too blurry. I like optics. Yeah. And then we can do some things where we do like, this one's a curvature one. So it's gonna basically create hard colors on the curvatures areas, but then shine through on those parts. And it's all driven by a ramp, and we can make this like white and then slide it up so that we get more of that. Pretty cool. We can swap it. Get more red. Bring it down. Bring in more white. Yeah. And change our scatter color to maybe blue. We can really get really weird, bizarre colors. Let's do orange. Turn that up to like 20. Yeah, you can see how this one's like a lot rougher. And interesting. If we can create these crazy rivets and divots and interesting things. Let's do one really cool one real quick. We'll just grab the one we made in the tutorial. And then what I'm going to do, we'll turn that on. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a curvature node. We're going to add a ramp. Okay, that's such a pretty glass. And then we're going to, and that's it. We're going to take our curvature node, isolate that. Actually, just plug it into the ramp and isolate that. There we go. So now you can see how that's going to be applied. So I want to go to my curvature node and switch it to concave. So it's just in the little bits. And we're going to up the samples here to like 64. So it's a little solid. There we go. And we can increase this and see if we like that, or lower it down and get it real crisp. Maybe somewhere in between. We're really trying to hone in on those hard edges. There we go. So 0.13 gave us those really nice hard edges. I like that. Cool. And then we can, pull this down, really buff that up. We'll get a little glow there. I don't really want that though. We're going to clamp it down. Perfect. That's all the ramp's for. All right. And so what I want to do now is actually, instead of being white, I want this to be like neon blue. Okay, and I take that, plug that in to the emission channel, color, and I go down here and go to the emission and turn it up to like 20, and turn that off. And now we have our cool glass color with this like shiny blue coming out of it. And that's obviously too much. Let's go back down to 2. There we go. So now you can create these like cool half hologram, half whatever. And if you don't want to use like curvature and do it on the nodes, we could try to do it on the convex and see what that looks like, of course. As well, I do have bloom on, which is of course affecting this. And again, I could lower the depth of it down more so it's like clamps that light a little sooner. But we can get these nice glows coming in. We could do it's pretty fun, like Tron color though. Maybe just 0.5, but really clamp it down. So it's just like a thin bar of it. Yeah. And then I think we can crank it back up. 3. Boom. Yeah. Nice. That with the little bloom threshold. You know. Just playing around with that. Get a nice Tron style. But besides that, you know, obviously that looks pretty cool, and it's going to go throughout our whole object, which is built with layers, which makes it really fun. So we should be able to like see through here. Camera. Boom, boom. You know, so we're getting like this nice, cool, like, and what I was gonna say is like, if you want to do like a hologram, this is just a little bonus thing. Just use Wireframe, which should look pretty cool, or you could use the tile thing and use a grid. But Wireframe, but then turn off show hidden, and then swap these two. So make your polygon color black and make this color white, and then you can use the same ramp to drive that instead. And it might be too intense, but there it is. If it's a cool model, it's going to have a good wireframe, which looks pretty cool. We could really clamp that down. I like that. Boom. Pretty cool, right? Tech. Very techy. Let's just grab another model and throw that in here. And this is where like the models, like the wireframe will be very based on the geometry of your model. So if you have a bad model, not a bad model, a model that doesn't have a fun wireframe, it's going to look pretty rough. So we'll see, but we'll try that. Let's go back to this. I like that kind of angle I had of that. Beep, beep. Yeah, that's very cool. Welcome to the Oasis. All right, let's grab a model and throw it in here. Bloop, bloop. We'll save an increment of this. Boop. And do that again. This will be the one with the new model. What have we made here? Is it huge? Yes. Look at this. Who knows what this is? That's holy moly. All right, this is just too much. This, select children, right click, connect objects and delete, because I ain't messing with that. Okay, cool. Now let's just grab our material and throw it on there and hide our VR headset. And now we have a cool pink Game Boy. That's super fun. I like it. It's very fun. Now, because we are using glass and we don't have anything like imperfections or anything, if we feel like remeshing this to fix the geometry, we could fix, as in make it more quad based. What we can do is grab this and just throw it in remesh and see what it does. Boom. Let's lower the mesh density. It's not bad. Not bad at all. There we go. Pretty fun. And again, throw whatever you want on there. Very cool. And then lastly, let's grab... yeah, we could put the cool wireframe one on that. See what that looks like. So now it's like a techie hologram. I would say, like, honestly, I bet if we take our city, if we just say city, we grab like the city, put that in there. All right, reloaded, brought our city in, scaled it down. You know, let's take our camera and just turn off bokeh for right now while we set this up. It might be too big. Scale it, oh, not all of it. Scale all of it down. Fit it in our lights here. Yeah. And we'll just see what that looks like. Oh, look how cool that is. That was worth it. That's pretty sick. Yeah, let's do this. Boom. Let's do some tilt shift. Like 800. Boom. We'll zoom out. Okay, stop the rendering. Zoom out. And look down the street a little bit, like so. And then optical focus on this road here. And then boom. 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 Yeah. And they'll do like a real shallow depth of field. Boom. It's like a micro city. Very cool. Now, here's what's really cool. I know we're just kind of keep going. It's fine. That's how I feel like doing this video. Let me know if you like this kind of freeform style. Yeah, so what we can do now, check this out, is create a light. Turn this on for right now. And we'll take our light and we're going to rotate it so it's shooting straight up. And we're going to put it down right underneath our floor. And we're going to make it visible. So we should be able to see it. And it should light up our glass. It might be too strong right now, but we'll take a look at it. It's too strong. Turn it down. Yeah, like that. Boom. A little bit more, obviously. It's kind of fun. Fun little city. And of course, different textures and things on the city would look cool. I like that one a lot that we made. Gummy City. Rainbow City. It's pretty though. Pretty blue. Nice. Very cool. Of course, we could take our light and lower the spread down. Make it shoot straight up. It might look cool. I don't know. Kind of fun. I think the one we made originally looks the best. Yeah. It's really cool because I like, let's do another camera. Let's get in here, and I like how the road's like thin. Where's that road at? Yeah, there. Like, that's really cool looking. This is really pretty. Red orange. Interesting. Yeah, I think I like the one we made the best. Obviously, you could turn this, turn the visibility off on this and just have it lighted up, which might look cool as well. So, city's just in the asset browser, but yeah, it's pretty fun. And because they're glass, we could layer them on top of each other. So if we wanted to, could layer another one on top of that one and combine the two. That looks pretty cool. So yeah, not like a straightforward tutorial, more of a process of just figuring out and playing with glass and just kind of have fun with it. If you like this, let me know. If you don't like this, also let me know. Just comment below and like, and you know, I'm really just trying to. The channel's I'm gonna have some updates and stuff. The channel's gonna come under some changes and things. It's gonna be. I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm not having as much fun doing what I'm doing, and so I want to rekindle that. And this was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. So let me know if you did. See you next time. Actually, let me put some depth of field on this real quick. If I put some fog on this, though. Uh-oh. Now we're going crazy. Blue fog. Pretty. That's fun. Okay, anyway. See you next time. I like that.